I am so sorry. It's my fault. Please forgive me. No matter how we phrase it, it can be difficult to apologize. Why is that so challenging? There are many reasons. We may fear confrontation, blame, or rejection. Perhaps we feel embarrassed and we're too proud to apologize. We may reason, apologizing will not undo the blunder I've already made. And it may even be that we are angry. This is such a matter of concern that in July 2000, the California State Legislature in the United States passed a bill designed to relieve people of liability if they express sympathy to an individual who was injured in an accident in which they themselves were involved. It was noted that people often hesitate to extend an apology out of concern that it could be construed in court as an admission of guilt.
Ooh, this is interesting. So we've just been watching Ralph Walls, a helper to the Personnel Committee. He's taking us through the symposium talk, Seek Peace and Pursue It by Apologizing. And Ralph Walls is observing that it can be difficult to say sorry, that people can feel too proud to apologize, that people can feel as though if they apologize, it's a concession of guilt and therefore places them in a position of liability. Am I the only one who was watching this and thinking, well, what about the organization? What about their failure to apologize down through the years? If it's truly an imperfect organization, if they're truly capable of making mistakes, shouldn't they be able to point to examples of where they've made mistakes and where they've apologized? Because if they can't point to such examples, then every word of what Ralph Walls has just said is utter hypocrisy. You have the faithful slave, through its spiritual food, telling everyone else that they should be open to apologizing while not apologizing themselves. And to just drum this point home, just in case you're watching as a Jehovah's Witness, there is the 2017 February Watchtower study article, which made the following statement on page 26. The governing body is neither inspired nor infallible. Therefore, it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction. So the governing body is not infallible, meaning that it is fallible, it is capable of making mistakes, and it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction. Again, where are the examples? If it's an organization or if it's a governing body that can make mistakes, where are the mistakes? And show us the example of you apologizing after making the mistake if you're then going to turn around to your rank and file and tell them that they should be apologizing. And I feel like I'm maybe one step ahead of one or two watching this who might be thinking, yes, but they did apologize for 1975. That's sort of the myth that gets circulated sometimes, particularly regarding that false prediction that Jehovah's Witnesses made that Armageddon was going to come in the year 1975. Let's look up the so-called apology that was printed 5 years later in 1980. And first of all, you can decide for yourself whether it's really a convincing apology. And then we're going to look at some more recent material on the subject. So in the 1980 Watchtower, March 15th, page 17, it says, with the appearance of the book Life Everlasting in Freedom of the Sons of God, and its comments as to how appropriate it would be for the millennial reign of Christ to parallel the seventh millennium of man's existence, considerable expectation was aroused regarding the year 1975. There were statements made then and thereafter stressing that this was only a possibility. Unfortunately, however, along with such cautionary information, there were other statements published that implied that such realization of hopes by that year was more of a probability than a mere possibility. It is to be regretted that these latter statements apparently overshadowed the cautionary ones and contributed to a build-up of the expectation already initiated. So that was the apology. And interestingly, if you read the book Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz, the celebrated apostate, the daddy of apostates really, the governing body member who defected and wrote a book about how shady the whole organization really is, but he did so in a really compelling way, I think. If you read that book, Raymond Franz explains that it was he who was tasked with writing this apology, quote unquote, but it got heavily modified. So what he would have liked to have said isn't what he ended up basically being forced to write. And I think this is a really half-baked attempt at an apology. It's basically saying, well, we said some cautionary things, don't forget. But yes, maybe we said some things that were a little bit too bold. And it's to be regretted that these bolder claims about 1975 overshadowed the cautionary statements. You can consider that an apology if you like. I'm personally not convinced at all. But even if you consider that an acceptable apology for the years of material that was printed pointing to 1975, including Kingdom Ministry articles encouraging people to sell their homes, to sell their businesses, to put themselves in vulnerable situations due to the certainty of this impending Armageddon. And all of this, by the way, is summarized. If you go on JW Facts, there's an excellent article summarizing all of the statements that were made about 1975, and perhaps Tibor can give you a quick glimpse if he's feeling gracious. Even if you accept that these wishy-washy, mealy-mouthed words cover the huge transgression that was made by the organization in impacting so many lives, you then have to account for this recent dramatization that formed part of the 2017 Don't Give Up Convention and effectively reversed the apology.
You see, back then, some were looking to a certain date as signifying the end of this old system of things. A few even went so far as selling their homes and quitting their jobs. I admit, I was ready to see this old system go away too. But something just didn't seem right. Both at meetings and in my personal study, I was reminded of what Jesus said. Nobody knows the day or hour. I was dedicated to Jehovah, not a date. After that year came and went, most of those who had wrong expectations made the needed adjustments, and they stayed. We didn't run away, and we didn't give up. We trusted in Jehovah.
Clever, isn't it? The blame gets switched onto the followers for believing the organization. It wasn't really something that the organization needed to apologize for. It was a few Jehovah's Witnesses who were racing ahead of the organization, who were investing in a certain date, if they'd only done their personal study, if they'd only listened at the meetings, they would have taken on board Christ's cautionary words about nobody knowing the day and the hour. They just needed to be a bit more spiritual, and then there would never have been a problem. So again, the entire apology, which again was just saying it is to be regretted, the entire apology just gets reversed by the current propaganda, the current whitewashing of Jehovah's Witness history that kind of buries all of this under the rug. And 1975, let's remember, is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all of the abuse, all of the harm, all of the cruelty that this organization is responsible for over the decades. We're talking shunning. We're talking Jehovah's Witnesses dying by refusing blood. We're talking children being dissuaded from higher education. We're talking the industrial scale cover-up of child abuse. And while we're on the subject of child abuse, that's one thing that survivors of abuse are unanimous on, that the very least they would want from the organization that has played a part in their abuse is the simple word, sorry. That's the bare minimum that they need to start being able to process what happened and seek some kind of recovery from the trauma that has been inflicted on them due to, again, the way abuse gets covered up by the organization. This is an organization where apologies are conspicuous by their absence and have been throughout the organization's entire existence, and yet they have the gall to point to their followers and say, by the way, let's remember that saying sorry, hard though it may be, is the Christian thing to do.
In the following dramatization, we will see an older sister applying the inspired words of Titus chapter 2, verses 3 through 5, in order to advise younger sisters to be sound in mind. We will also observe how one of the younger sisters avoids further problems and pursues peace by humbly apologizing.
I don't know how this happened. But Hayley, I'm sorry. It hurts me to see you so upset.
I can't believe you two.
First, what you heard was not what I said.
Well, I thought that's how you felt. And even if I got that part wrong, all this drama...
Now stop. Come on, girls. Hayley, come closer. Love is patient and kind. It's not jealous. It doesn't become provoked, even when things become difficult. So what are we going to do?
I just thought that... No. I'm sorry, Hayley. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have judged you so harshly. I shouldn't have judged you at all. And I'm sorry for dragging you into this by twisting what you said.
It's okay. Things happen. I've been on both ends.
I should never have spoken that way to you, Celia. I mean, to either of you. Got to get home to Nan.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Bye.
So it seems with Celia's help, Hayley and Emily are well on the way to patching things up, and everything's going to work out just swell now that they've all sat down together in the back room at the Kingdom Hall, where normally all manner of nasty things happen, especially if you have sex with a consenting adult to whom you're not married. That's where the judicial committees will happen. But this time it's not a judicial committee, it's 3 Jehovah's Witness women, or as they would say, sisters, getting together to thrash out their differences. I don't have too much to say here. It's all obviously a dramatization, and I've hopefully made clear my point about the hypocrisy of the organization banging on about apologizing and the merits of saying sorry given its track record. I do just think it's worth noting that what Celia is doing here in acting as a mediator, in acting as someone who is reconciling two members of the congregation, Hayley and Emily, what she's doing could not be done if there were a man involved in the argument. So if there'd been any kind of argument in the car park involving men, it would not be her business to do this. It's only when it's all females involved that elders' wives or older, mature women in the congregation have some license to involve themselves in matters and bring their experience and maturity to bear to stop this from escalating into something that the elders would get involved in. So Celia's actions, laudable though they are, would be seriously frowned on if she tried playing this role of mediator in a situation involving men.